Welcome to another episode of Mental Wellness Insights. Today we are going to start a series on the family. We realize that the society is largely dependent on the type of families that we have. And we also realize that the family unit is crumbling in this day and age. So we are going to talk about the family from the foundation. And the foundation of the family is where two people come together and eventually get married. So today we are going to talk about dating, the dating process, and the courtship process. With me is Pastor Susan, and I will ask that you introduce yourself before we move on.
Thank you for this opportunity. I want to say it's a privilege that God has granted. And so today I'm here to talk about courtship. And before we do that, I would like to introduce myself. I go by the name Susan Nganga. I'm married to one man that is male, and I have 7 children. I'm also a grandmother to 4 grandchildren. And I got into the business of working for the Lord. I didn't call myself, but I was actually commissioned by the Spirit of God. And basically, I involved myself in family issues, marriage issues, parenting issues, anything that is to do with the body of Christ. Because right from the word go in the book of Genesis, when God commissioned man, he was actually commissioning man to be in relation, to be in touch with his will and to do his will. And so from the genesis of what God had put in man is that we resonate with what God intended, the purpose of God for our lives. And what is the purpose of God for our lives? Then it explains a lot of issues and a lot of key aspects into the intentions of man. The intentions of God upon man's life. And that is where we see that after God creating the world and all that was in it, he put man as the epicenter of his love. But by doing so, God had intentions for this man. And now that is where family starts. And that is where marriage comes in. And that is where parenting comes in. Because from the word go, it was an intention. It was purposed by God himself, an intention that he had that we be fruitful, and not just productive, but we be fruitful for his own intention and purpose. That we fulfill his will and not our will. And so today we want to understand why we have marriages, why we have parenting, and why we have relationships. And so because relationships have phases. Before you get to marriage, there are phases that come about. And before you get somebody to settle with, you must start from somewhere. And so the intention of God when he put Adam and Eve in the garden, his intention and his purpose was to have 2 people come together and connect for a sole purpose. That was to actually advance the kingdom of God in terms of productivity. And so today we have marriages all over globally, but different types of marriages from different cultures. We have the intention of people getting into marriage either in the right way or in the wrong way. At the end of the day, they are termed as marriages. We have 3 types of marriages, but today we want to talk about how this marriage comes about. And so we begin from dating. We must distinguish the difference between dating and courtship. Dating is the first phase of entering into a relationship. Now it could be, dating is more of just casual. It is not profound. Dating is casual, whereby people can have interests with no intentions of advancing the relationship to a long-term relationship. Contrast to courtship. Courtship is more profound. Is where we have social and romantic processing with individuals who want a deeper emotional connection that eventually could lead to marriage, could lead to a long-term relationship.
So dating, but dating also involves people with probably the same interests, people with probably the motive of prolonging or extending to courtship. How do people choose who to date and who not to date?
Now, as I said before, courtship is a process. But dating is just a casual affair that, if given time and pressure, leads to courtship. This is whereby people come together, male and female come together, and in that process could strike a common goal and could have common intentions and interests, values that could project to a certain path whereby one feels that I think I would want to prolong this relationship to a next level. So dating basically is not confined as courtship. In dating, nobody is confined. So I can come in today, and if I don't think you have the same qualities as I, if I don't think you have the same interests, I walk away. But in courtship, it is a process that has come from dating. We have evaluated our compatibility. We have evaluated common goals in this relationship, common interests, background checks, customs, rituals, with traditions, and found that maybe I could give it a try because we have this in common. We have this interest. I have these values. And so we choose to get into courtship.
Now, before we move to the modern courtship process, can we retrace our steps back to the olden days? How was courtship taking place? Or what type of courtship was there? Or was there courtship at all? I know that there's a time when I wouldn't say there was dating, but how about courtship?
Now, we need to understand the key aspects that would affect courtship. Because like in the olden days, we cannot compare the olden days and nowadays. Things have really taken a turn. But in the olden days, courtship was more of a family thing, more of a family affair. And like nowadays, courtship is basically individual who come together and decide we want to have a relationship by starting a friendship and turning it as a long-term friendship, whereby we want to take it to the next level with intentions. Now, before then, we had our grandmothers and our grandfathers who had arranged relationships, arranged marriages. And if I may say so, some of them were forced. And thereby, you'd find that there was no dating.
Yeah.
To say so. There was no dating. But there was courtship. And this courtship was more like arranged by parents, whereby you'd find parents would first of all do an investigation on behalf of their children, on whom they think would suit their children, what kind of a spouse would suit their children. And so they would do background checkups. And it was kind of regional, because you would not find intermarriages by then. People would marry from within the same community, and people would marry from within the same region. There was no extension of friendships. So basically the friendships were just rotating within the villages, within the region, the community. And so parents played more of a courtship process than their children. And so you'd find arranged marriages because the parents wanted the best for their children. And you would find that the customs, the rituals that each family practiced, and the customs. For instance, let's talk about the Taitas, where I come from. You'll find like the Taitas would want to know if that is a God-fearing family. If that family where we want to get a son or a daughter, are they God-fearing? Do they practice witchcraft? Do they practice sorcery? Are they educated? Are they rich? And things like that. So we would go with the interests of parents.
So can we say that the values that our forefathers or our parents were looking for as for a marriage partner are a little different from the values that people look for in a partner today?
Yes, I can say so, because what we have nowadays are relationships that have been nurtured and born out of exposure. Unlike in the olden days, whereby we have relationships that were basically family related or family programmed, to say so. But nowadays, because of education and because of exposure, you find that individuals would go out to intermarry from a different tribe, a different clan, even a different nationality, because of the exposure. And people have come to understand that it is no longer a family bonding, family setup thing. It is an individual thing, whereby you go out yourself. And like before, where they would choose a wife for you, they would choose a husband for you, depending on the family backgrounds, depending on the social status, depending on the financial status. But nowadays you find that somebody would go out and get into a relationship without consulting the parents, without having the family setup interfere with the whole process. So it is upon individuals who come together to develop a deeper emotional connection with one another, with the intention of having a lasting relationship that could eventually lead to marriage.
Yeah, so what is coming out here is that in as much as we are not recommending that we go back to what used to happen, but it is still very important, if you meet somebody whom you intend to have a lasting relationship with, it's important to know the background of this person, to know the type of a family this person is coming from, to know the values in this of this community or this family, for you to be able to know that this is somebody that will most likely be a lasting partner. That is what I am getting from our discussion so far. And I'm thinking, because in as much as a long time ago there used to be that setup that the family would do background check and so on without the two people involved. Marriages of long time ago lasted longer than marriages of today. Yeah.
Why we have the fallout now in marriages, or rather in courtship, is because we are more exposed. We are more exposed because you'd find that people are getting out of their regions, either in terms of education, or in terms of business, in terms of career. And so you find people have interacted with different types of cultures, have interacted with different types of backgrounds, and they have come to realize that you can extend a hand to another culture. You can be welcomed. You can sit and compare different cultures and find your place in between the two cultures and decide whether to take it or to leave it. So you will find the kind of aspects that the kind of key aspects that actually govern courtship are the same aspects that are playing a role right now in deciding whether somebody will maintain a relationship or not, or will take it to a higher level with the intentions of keeping it, lasting, or just leaving it and move away. So you'll find that intentionally you must purpose. Courtship is intentional. It is purposeful. In the sense that sometimes you just aim at serious commitment. Rather in dating, there is no serious commitment. But in courtship, we have serious commitment.
So what are the things that people should be looking out for during the courtship period?
That's a good question. During the courtship period, the things that you should look at. Number one, we have communication. How well are you able to communicate with your partner? How well are you able to communicate your values, your interests, your goals to your partner? How open, how transparent, how sincere and genuine can you be to one another concerning ritual backgrounds, the goals that you want in the next 30, 40 years, the plans that you've carried along. Now you're meeting somebody that you totally don't know, but you want that compatibility. You want to be compatible and build a relationship that is lasting, that is meaningful. So you must, first of all, get to understand the aspect of communication is very crucial. Effective communication, which plays a very major role when it comes to relationships. Because as I said, relationships have stages. From dating, you move into courtship. From courtship, you move into marriage. But as you would say, there's engagement in between before marriage. Now, after marriage, we have parenting. Then after parenting, what goes on? There's also a life. We don't stop. We continue being in a relationship until death do us that, or something else comes up.
So
Number two,
the first key aspect of courtship into marriage is communication.
yes.
These days there's a lot of artificial communication.
Oh yes.
Truth is very difficult to get out of people these days. The face that I present to you most likely is not my real person.
Exactly.
How then are two people supposed to get to dig out the real thing out of each other before marriage?
Now, for you to understand the kind of person you want to have a life with, there's something called time and patience. And time plays a very major role. Because as I said, courtship is a process that you get to learn one another, you get to understand one another, a process that you get to realize who this person really is. And without the essence of time, you cannot tell the truth about this person.
Mm.
You cannot know the true side about this person. Mm. So time plays a major role. The same way, communication, effective communication, time and patience, because you have to be patient. Mm. You can't rush it. You have to take your time and evaluate a lot of interests and values concerning this partner. And because, like as you said, we are having relationships that are not true. It is because of the exposure, as I said. They are online relationships. And somebody would believe I can get a marriage online. This is a miracle. Somebody could believe I can just get a marriage, by just a connection of a phone call from a friend. And so we have different ideologies about courtship that leads to marriage. And as I would say, time will allow partners. Time and patience would allow partners to get to know each other better.
Yeah, time and patience, and I believe even during this time, we should be able to observe people in different situations, how you react in different situations, how you treat people in different situations. For example, how you treat maybe a subordinate staff, for example. How you treat a waiter in a hotel, for example.
Yes.
If people are keen, I believe those are the things that the process of courtship,
you learn from time.
Who are the people that we ought to involve during courtship period?
Now, during courtship period, most people have gotten it. You'll find that when people are courting, they will, especially the nowadays generation, because of the involvement with the media, the social media, and things like that, you'll find that the younger generation nowadays would want to involve people of the same age gap, the age bracket. But long ago, we'd find that when we were courting, we would find the older people in our relationships giving advice, telling you what to do and what not to do, telling you how to carry yourself in a marriage or in this process, how to go about it. But these days, we are our own teachers. we happen to be our own lecturers, in that we get more information about courtship, relationships, marriages online. There are too many teachers who have no idea of our backgrounds, who have no idea of our cultural norms, rituals and traditions. But we would want to flow because life is changing. And so many things are changing, and at a very fast rate. That is why you find that young couples would not take time to indulge with the clergy. For instance, some of these young couples have no time for church. So for them to find the right clergy to give them advice and to pray over marriage is a thing that they are not aware of. But I believe in any courtship process where the two individuals who have driven into deeper emotional connection want to prolong it to marriage must involve a spiritual figure. Why? Because marriage from the word go was birthed spiritually. It was birthed from a foundation that God Himself put in place. So a marriage minus God will not work. Definitely it will not work. We might say, yes, we have parents who have experience, but remember, without God, it won't work. He is the author of every marriage on planet Earth. And so we must understand why God has to come into the picture for any process to do with courtship or marriage has to work. Because if we put God aside, then we will miss a lot of the aspects that would contribute to this marriage being successful, parenting being successful, and everything about marriage. And so you find that we are missing out a lot because the older people would come together with the knowledge of responsibility that is demanded by marriage, the marriage institution. They would bring in the godly figure, the spiritual figure, to pray for this marriage, to give instruction, and to speak to the people involved and the partners involved. But these days, we barely or hardly do it. A few cases would go back to the clergy and the parents, involve the clergy, the parents. And now this is where the family aspect plays a major role.
A lot of times these days, people think marriage comes from emotional aspects. I love you, so I will marry you. What do you say about this love thing?
Now, when we talk about emotional aspect, we are basically talking about emotional connection. Now, in the emotional connection, we build emotional bonds. We tend to build emotional bonds by the experiences that we have had from the time we were dating. The experiences we have had, shared experiences, that is, what we have had since we started dating, what we have had as individuals before we started dating. How well or how good can we share our experiences? Are we open enough? Do we have the courage to share something that, you did not like, something that brought shame to you or to your family? Are you ready to share? Those experiences that we have locked into the closets, put in the closets, and said, no, this is just me. I cannot share this. And some of these things are what come to haunt you later on in marriage when you don't bring out your experiences and share them to your partner. And you'll find that getting to know each other deeply by sharing these experiences is actually what bonds you. Is actually what gives you a foothold. Because when we don't know how to share our emotions, then we have a fallout again on our bonding. We must be able to share these experiences for us to bond. I cannot just come into courtship and not have an experience that I've had back then. I should be able to feel free to share it with you, so that creates that bond. The idea that I can share something with you gives me courage and gives me confidence in this relationship, that I can tell you about myself, being open-minded, opening up to tell you what I've gone through in life, what my family has put me through, what education has put me through, what my background has put me through, to where I am today, to who I am today. It means a lot. Emotions mean a lot. Because the moment we don't talk about our emotions when courting, a point in time will come where we would want to talk about it, but it could be late. And by doing so, it could be sometimes catastrophic, and sometimes it could haunt us, and we wish we had said it earlier. Because why do I say that? Because sometimes you'll find that in some cases, people court and they had, let's say, a lady could have gotten pregnant and had a child out of wedlock. Here comes a man who wants to engage her, who wants to marry her, because maybe of the values that he has seen in her and the interest that he has in her. But she has held back the fact that she has a child from a past relationship, or she had an abortion from a past relationship. These are the very things that come back to haunt someone when you're in a relationship and you're not open and you're not sincere with your feelings, with your values, with your interests to your partner. So they will haunt you. And that is why you find that most marriages are actually shaky. Some are breaking, others are divorced, because the foundation that was laid from the time of dating and courtship was wrong. And so when it is right, you'll find that even when you get into marriage, because you had talked about it, you are free about everything. There are no secrets. Remember what the Bible says, that when you get married, you become one body. You're no longer two. In the book of Proverbs 18 verse 22, it talks about a man finding a wife, not a woman. When you are courting, dating, this is where the aspect of wanting somebody becoming not just a woman, but a wife comes in. When you are dating, we are just man and woman, a guy and a lady. But when we want to advance this connection to deeper levels, now we get into courtship. In courtship, I have a mind. I have intentions. It is purposeful that I want this lady or this man to be my future partner. And by so doing, I have to involve my feelings, mentally, emotionally, name it. I have to be wise to get to understand from the basis of the word. What does it say? He who finds a man, he who finds a wife, finds a good thing. When you look at the context of good, what does good mean? Anything that was righteous, anything that was just, anything that is, pleasant before God. He said it was good. And so it doesn't end there. And And the Bible says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. Most marriages these days don't have favor. They have no favor from the Lord. Why? Because we got into marriage with the wrong footing. We got into courtship, not understanding the basics, the fundamentals of actually getting into courtship.
So what you're saying is making me feel like a wife is not just a woman living with you in the house.
No.
He who finds a wife, not he who finds a partner. A wife, that proverb has a lot of meaning. He who finds a wife finds a good thing and has favor with the Lord. Meaning a wife is not just what we think.
No. From the biblical context aspect of it, when you are getting into dating, to courtship, to marriage, the Bible translates it very well that a wife, God did not talk of a woman. God did not mention a woman. He said, he who finds a wife. From the beginning, God knew a man needs a wife, not a woman. From the beginning, God knew the male species needs a wife, not a woman.
And therefore, when you are courting and with intentions of marriage, you ought to be sure who a wife is.
And that is where, when you look at courtship, with the key aspects, that there is intentionality, that there is the cultural aspect of it, that there is the communication aspect of it, that there is the family aspect of it. Name them. You must understand that you are not looking for a woman, but for a wife. And the mistake that most people do is that when they are looking for a partner, they think it is a woman. That basically, I will pick this lady, I will pick this woman and put her in my house, and she will be the mother of my children, and she will be my spouse. But there is a secret, a divine secret, as to why God transforms it from a woman to a wife. It is transformative from a woman to a wife.
And then what I get from the proverb is, if you want favor with the Lord in your marriage, you've got to find a wife, not a woman.
Yes. You must find a wife.
Favor in the marriage, in the family, emanates from the wife.
Yes.
The type of person that you get as your partner, the wife.
Now the catch is
the woman.
The catch is here.
Yeah.
When we are in courtship, we are normally looking for a partner to settle with. But I don't know whether it is negligence or I don't know how to put it, but we must understand when we are getting into courtship, we are not just looking for a woman, because a woman is not in the subject of God's aspect, but a wife is. So I want to get a wife for myself, but is this wife in alignment with the will of God for my life? Is this courtship with this lady who I eventually want to become a wife in alignment with God's will? Because most people get into courtship, which is okay, but there's one question they never ask. Is this the right person for me? We get attracted, either physical attraction, either educational attraction, either money-wise attraction, but we must be able to ask ourselves, am I courting with the right partner? How do you know that this is the right partner?
Yeah.
How do you know? Number one, for you to know if I am courting with the right partner, you must be able to do a spiritual background checkup. That is where we start. We must do a spiritual checkup, background checkup. Is this person a God-fearing person? Does this person know anything about God? Because we have ladies and young men who have been brought up by us parents, who don't go to church, who have nothing to do with church, who just hear about God and just brush it off. But tomorrow, the same people we are bringing up want to get involved in marriage. Now, a marriage has to involve God. From day one, a marriage must involve God. There are no two ways about it. And that is why we have divorces, we have breakups, we have pain and sorrow all over. Because we did not know the intention of God concerning marriage. It begins from there. What is the intention of God for marriage in your life? When we ask ourselves that question, what is it that God purposes for me in marriage? But today I meet somebody very beautiful, very charming, and she has all
the physical, every aspect
is there. And so I go tell my mom I found someone. I go tell my dad I found someone. I talk to my uncles and my aunties, my siblings, and tell them I found someone. But did I do a spiritual check? Did I do my homework well? How sure am I? Yes, this person he has everything that I'm looking for. But are they in alignment with God's will? Now this is where we fail.
This is where the rain started beating us.
Yes.
Because even us as parents, we are not bringing our children in the way of God.
Yes.
So that when this child meets somebody else, they will be able to think, let me do a spiritual background check.
Oh yes.
You can only do a spiritual background check if yourself is grounded spiritually.
Oh yes. Now, that is where I said, as parents, we have wronged our own children. Why? Because back then, our parents were spiritual. And everything they did, they involved God. Most of them, either God or gods, they involved a supernatural being.
Yeah.
But this day, we are not even close to our children. Some of us live very far away from our children. We are not aware of who they meet, of what they do, the circles they get into. And so they will come up one day and tell you, I found somebody. But you know nothing about this person.